The world was jolted awake by a barrage of urgent headlines, each one more alarming than the last. Newsrooms buzzed with activity as anchors scrambled to make sense of the chaos, their voices echoing across living rooms and smartphones worldwide. The sense of unease was palpable, as if the very air had thickened with anticipation. Explosions in the eastern Pacific. Unidentified vessels struck off the Colombian coast. The images were stark. Columns of smoke rising from the water, debris scattered across the waves, and the haunting silence that follows a sudden, violent act. Speculation exploded. Was it an accident, or something far more deliberate? Rumors swirled on social media, with theories ranging from cartel infighting to covert military operations. The public, hungry for answers, found only more questions. In the chaos, intelligence agencies raced to piece together the truth. Analysts pored over satellite images, intercepted communications, and maritime logs, searching for patterns in the noise. Every clue mattered, every second counted. The targets weren't random ships, but high-speed, go-fast boats and semi-submersibles, key assets of South American drug cartels. These vessels, designed to evade detection, had long been the backbone of the narcotics trade, slipping through international waters under the cover of darkness. The strikes were precise, unmistakably intentional. Advanced drones and guided missiles left little room for doubt. This was a calculated operation, not a chance encounter. The message was clear. Someone had drawn a line in the sand and crossed it with force. The silence from Washington only fueled the tension until the White House finally spoke. Reporters camped outside, their breath visible in the night air, waiting for any sign of official word. President Trump, flanked by advisors, announced a decisive action to protect American lives from the relentless flow of narcotics. He spoke of a new era of vigilance, of taking the fight to those who threaten the nation's security, and of a commitment to end the scourge at its source. The message: this was not war, but national defense, a new hard line drawn in the Pacific. The president emphasized that the operation was a matter of survival, a necessary step to shield communities from the devastation wrought by drugs. Allies offered cautious support, adversaries condemned the move. Around the world, leaders weighed their words carefully, aware that the balance of power in the region had shifted overnight. The United Nations called for restraint, but in Washington, resolve hardened. Debates raged in the Security Council, but the U.S. position was unwavering. This was a fight that could no longer be postponed. This operation was months in the making, a shift from law enforcement to national security. Behind closed doors, generals and officials had mapped out every detail, transforming a policing challenge into a military campaign. The headlines captured the world's attention, but the real story was the strategic transformation underway. The rules of engagement, the very definition of the war on drugs, were being rewritten in real time. The United States had decided it would no longer wait for the poison to reach its shores. The era of reactive defense was over. Proactive measures would now define the nation's approach. Instead, it would strike at the source. Special forces and intelligence operatives coordinated across borders, targeting the very heart of the drug trade before it could metastasize. The world watched, uncertain what this bold new doctrine would bring. In capitals and villages alike, people debated the risks and rewards of such an aggressive stance. The rules of engagement had changed overnight. Soldiers and sailors received new orders, their missions redefined by a single, unyielding objective: stop the flow, whatever it takes. The war on drugs had entered uncharted waters. The outcome was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the world would never be the same. Operation Pacific Trident was a masterclass in modern warfare, driven by intelligence, not just firepower. In today's battles, information is as critical as ammunition, and this operation proved it. Every move was calculated, every decision rooted in data and analysis, not just brute strength. For months, teams of analysts and agents worked around the clock, piecing together a complex web of cartel supply chains. They tracked not only the movement of drugs, but also the flow of money, following digital trails across continents. Surveillance drones and satellites mapped out jungle coastlines, while financial experts traced illicit funds through shell companies and offshore accounts. Their efforts revealed the hidden narco submarines slipping quietly through the vast Pacific, evading detection, until now. When the moment finally arrived, U.S. naval and air assets mobilized with flawless coordination. Warships cut through the waves and fighter jets roared off carrier decks, each unit knowing its precise role in the unfolding operation. High above, drones and satellites relayed real-time intelligence, guiding FA-18s to their targets, semi-submersibles packed with tons of cocaine, hidden beneath the ocean's surface. The strikes that followed were surgical, executed with pinpoint accuracy. Each missile was aimed to destroy both vessel and cargo, ensuring the operation took place far from sovereign waters, minimizing risk to civilians and international tensions. Each explosion wasn't just a show of force, it was a calculated blow to the financial heart of the cartel. Millions of dollars in drugs and equipment were lost in seconds, sending shockwaves through criminal networks. Drones circled overhead, confirming the destruction and scanning for any signs of salvage. Nothing was left to chance. Every piece of evidence was documented, ensuring the operation's success was absolute. The message to the cartels was unmistakable. The cost of trafficking had just skyrocketed. News headlines blared the story, and the world watched as the balance of power shifted. Operation Pacific Trident wasn't just about stopping a single shipment, it was about crippling the entire business model. Disrupting routes, draining finances, and closing labs. The operation struck at the very foundation of the cartel's empire. The U.S. had demonstrated not only its military capability, but also its unwavering will to act. This was a clear signal to criminal organizations everywhere. The cartels had never faced anything like it before, and the world would never see them the same way again. The White House wasted no time justifying its actions. The argument drug cartels, with their violence and reach, now posed a national security threat, akin to terrorist groups. This wasn't just crime, it was asymmetric warfare. The strikes, conducted in international waters, were framed as self-defense under both U.S. and international law. Officials cited staggering overdose deaths, painting each destroyed vessel as a life saved. The administration's message: these boats weren't just smuggling drugs. They were delivering weapons of mass destruction. The drug war had been reframed as a fight for survival. The legal and moral lines had been redrawn. The impact was immediate. Maritime drug shipments from the region ground to a halt. The once busy sea lanes, notorious for trafficking, now lay eerily quiet. The Coast Guard's vigilance and the Naval Patrol's relentless efforts ensured that no vessel went unchecked, creating a formidable barrier against the tide of illegal substances. Cartel operatives, once elusive, now faced sudden destruction from above. The precision of the airstrikes left them with little room to maneuver, dismantling their operations with swift efficiency. The armed forces, equipped with cutting-edge technology, apprehended key figures, sending shockwaves through the cartel's ranks. The risk-reward equation had changed overnight. Traffickers, who once operated with impunity, now found themselves in a precarious position. The fear of capture and the loss of lucrative shipments weighed heavily on their minds, forcing them to reconsider their strategies. U.S. officials touted the operation as a public health victory, linking destroyed shipments to lives saved back home. The decline in overdose deaths was a testament to the operation's success, providing a glimmer of hope in the ongoing battle against addiction. Public health workers celebrated this milestone, recognizing the broader impact on communities. Economically, the cartels suffered hundreds of millions in losses. The confiscation of cash and drugs dealt a severe blow to their financial stability. The destruction of vehicles and equipment further crippled their ability to operate, leaving them scrambling to recover. The disruption rippled through their networks, straining resources and morale. Empty warehouses and scattered debris painted a picture of chaos and disarray. Cartel members, once confident, now appeared stressed and uncertain about their future. Operation Pacific Trident became a proof of concept. The U.S. could strike cartel logistics far from its borders. The meticulous planning and execution demonstrated the capability to disrupt trafficking routes on an international scale, setting a new standard for future operations. The success emboldened calls for a tougher, more proactive strategy. Politicians debated the merits of expanding such operations, while the public, galvanized by the results, demanded stronger measures. The media highlighted the operation's achievements, sparking a national conversation on drug policy. The war on drugs had a new playbook: law enforcement agencies, armed with fresh strategies and renewed determination, prepared to tackle the evolving challenges. The shift in strategy marked a pivotal moment, promising a more effective approach in the fight against drug trafficking. Striking in international waters was a calculated move, asserting U.S. power without violating another nation's sovereignty. The ocean's gray zone allowed the U.S. Navy to act freely, but forced the cartels to adapt. As maritime routes closed, traffickers eyed land corridors and commercial shipping. The next phase could push the conflict onto foreign soil, a far riskier proposition. The administration's rhetoric set the stage: if cartels are military targets at sea, why not on land? Latin American governments grew anxious, fearing escalation. The maritime strikes were just the beginning. The real test would come if the fight moved ashore. The Pacific explosion sent shockwaves worldwide. In Colombia, official protests masked private approval among some military leaders. The strikes strained U.S.-Colombia ties, shifting the relationship from partnership to unilateral action. Globally, rivals like China and Russia condemned the operation as American overreach. Allies were uneasy, wary of the precedent set by unilateral military action against non-state actors. The operation became a flashpoint in the broader contest for global influence. Nations everywhere reconsidered the rules of engagement. The world was forced to confront a new reality. The U.S. was willing to act alone. The geopolitical waters had been unsettled. Operation Pacific Trident set a dangerous and unprecedented precedent. The temptation to escalate, striking deeper into cartel infrastructure, now loomed ominously, but each step risked severe retaliation, diplomatic fallout, and regional instability. The U.S. faced a delicate balancing act. Act tough at home, but avoid isolation abroad. The challenge was to turn unilateral action into effective multilateral cooperation. The stakes: a safer America, or a destabilized hemisphere. The next move would define the future of the war on drugs, and America's pivotal place in the world.